I want to talk a bit about social anxiety today, what that can be like. Um, I started suffering a bit with social anxiety before lockdown, before Corona. Um, Now, I would say I'm a very outgoing person. I enjoy a good social life. I'm constantly busy, I'm constantly getting out. I've got a wide circle of friends. Um, I never thought that I would be someone that would struggle with something like social anxiety. Um, but over the last couple of years, as my anxiety has got worse and I found it harder to deal with, um, I started to struggle with some of those things, and it wasn't, I didn't realise straight away that it was potentially social anxiety. It started sort of small, maybe just feeling a little bit anxious about an upcoming event, maybe just being a bit worried about it, not necessarily wanting to make a phone call if I needed to, feeling a bit shy when I had to enter a room full of people I didn't know. All things that you kind of think, oh, that's just normal. So I didn't really think anything of it. But gradually it got worse and worse and worse. And I'd start becoming almost panicked before some of these things. So it could start maybe an hour or so before the event, or it could happen even a couple of days before, leading up to it, and the worry would start. The sickness in my stomach, the breathlessness, the shaking, all of that would start happening every time I thought about what was coming up. This could, like I said, this could be a friend coming to stay, going out for dinner, a meeting with people I didn't know, we're having to ring a utility company, any of those things. And at times when it was really, really bad, even just going to the shops, it could bring on a bit of a panic attack. So the anxiety would build, but it would be the thoughts that go with it. It'd be things like, I'd start worrying about everything that could go wrong. What's going to happen? Will something bad happen? Will something go wrong? Will I wear the right thing? Will people laugh at me? Will people make fun of me? Will I look fat? Will I say something stupid? Will people at work realise that I'm not good enough? Will my friends not want to hang out with me anymore after this? Will I argue with my boyfriend? Will we break up? What if I argue with my friends and then never speak to me again? What if I go and I have a really bad time and then it's a waste of time? What if I should be doing something else with that time? What if I'm tired at the end of it? What if it affects the rest of my weekend? What if it affects the rest of the week? What if it affects the rest of the month? Should I be doing it? Should I be going? And it just would get worse and worse and worse until just before the event, a panic attack could happen. And I would become breathless, and I would become I'd feel sick, I'd feel dizzy, and I'd become hysterical. I would be crying and screaming, and I'd become nasty and horrible to those that are around me, trying to coax me, trying to comfort me, trying to make me see that I have nothing to worry about this event. And nothing would work. They tell me it doesn't matter, you don't have to go, and I'd get hysterical because I wanted to go and I just didn't want to feel like this. And then they tell me to go and I get hysterical and angry and upset because I didn't want to go, because I couldn't cope with it, because everyone was going to hate me and something bad was going to happen, and I didn't have anything to wear, or whatever it was that I was currently in that moment. And honestly, it is the worst thing. It's so horrible to feel like that about an event that you've been looking forward to. And often I would force myself. I would really push myself, and I would go to the event, and I would often have a good time, and that anxiety would go once the event had started and nothing was going wrong. But then I would feel guilty. Oh, why did I worry? Why did I get myself in a state? Why was I so horrible to the people around me? They might not enjoy it now because I've got myself in a panic, in a state. This is fine. I had nothing to worry about. So the guilt was still there. The stress was still there. But the worst was when I went and I wasn't present, really. that I would be there, I'd be smiling, I'd be laughing, but it would almost like I was watching myself. Because it's really hard to explain, but it would be like part of me was having fun and the other part of me was like in the background desperately trying to like contain all of the anxiety, to contain that battle, so that suddenly I didn't start crying in the middle of a night out, or suddenly I didn't just like smash a plate at work because I just couldn't cope. Like, I was desperately trying to hold it all together and be present and have a good time and not show anyone that I was like a completely different person behind the scenes. You know, it felt like I was going insane behind the scenes, but I was putting on this mask and I would just smile and laugh and joke and have fun and banter, but actually behind all of it I just felt like I couldn't breathe. It's the weirdest experience. It's really hard to, I don't know if I'm explaining it well enough, but it's not fun. And then because you've gone through that, the next event you're like, well, I know what it's going to be like. It's going to be awful. It's going to be tough. You come home and you're exhausted. You know, there'll be times I come home and I would just cry, because I couldn't keep it in any longer. I was exhausted from like that fight for the whole social event. So the next time I'm like, I don't know if I can be bothered. I don't know if I can be bothered. All of that was hard before COVID. It's now even harder. Now there's another layer on top of it. There's another added pressure. If I leave the house, if I see other people, if I socialise, then the risk's greater. I don't necessarily just affect my life. I could be infecting other people. I could be killing other people. That is a lovely, massive trigger that my dementor anxiety monster likes to hold on to and run with. It's made me really, really anxious about leaving the house. It's made me really anxious every time I've gone to the shops. I have sat in Tesco's car park in my car crying because I didn't want to go in the shop. I didn't want to go and do my shopping, but I couldn't get an online order. And then I'd do it, I would barely hold myself together, and I'd get back in the car and I'd be hysterical again. I'd be crying, I'd be unable to breathe because the trauma of going around the shop and being around other people and worrying about whether I was doing the right thing, whether I was staying far enough away, whether I was spreading the virus, whether I was infecting other people, became overwhelming. It was slightly easier to deal with when there were stricter rules, because at least there was something, you know, don't do these things, you are allowed to do this thing. It was easy to follow. The rules are lifting, things are changing. Oh man, my anxiety has gone through the roof. I have a lot of anxiety about, even though I can do these things now, whether they are the right thing, whether it is too soon, whether I will still be infecting people, whether, you know, what if I'm that one person that still causes a problem. I just feel constantly anxious at the moment. I feel constantly anxious about what everyone else is doing as well. I have been invited to barbecues or to speak to someone, like to go and see someone, maybe in their front garden or whatever. And every time I get anxious and I get a panic attack, and sometimes when I can't make the decision, the panic attacks will keep going on, and they can almost take over a whole day about going to see someone. And what makes it even harder is that I live on my own at the moment and I haven't really seen anyone, and I'm desperate to see people, and I'm sick of being on my own, and I loved my social life and I'm desperate to have it back. And now I'm choosing not to see people, and that's equally as hard to put yourself into isolation, because the anxiety of going to see someone is overwhelming. It is torture. So if you, like me, are struggling with the change and with not knowing whether you should go out and whether you should meet other people, that the anxiety around those social situations, if they have come back or if you've always had them or if it's just started, I really get it. It's really hard. Do what is best for you right now. I am trying to get a middle ground. I know that if I completely give in to the social anxiety, I will not leave the house, and I know that every week it will get harder to do so. So I'm trying to do little things. I'm trying to do small meets, maybe with one other person, very much keeping a huge distance, masks if I need to reassure myself that I'm doing the right thing, but to kind of push me to get out of the house. But when things are too much, when they're too big, then I have to think about my anxiety. It's not worth going to a social event if it causes me so much anxiety beforehand, during and after. It's just not worth it at the moment. It's hopefully a couple more months, and if things continue to get better, then maybe I'll feel better, maybe I'll feel safer. But do what's right for you. Do not feel like you have any pressure from anyone else to do anything that you don't want to do. Do what you feel is right at the moment, because this is a crazy, crazy time and anxiety is really high, and that can be really, really difficult to live and deal with right now.